guy that's looking straight onto us is quite cool. The one standing in the water and the one just behind him. Really is perfect place for these buffalo just to cool down in. Still quite a few of them further back lying down in the water. We'll go have a look at them just now. All the boys taking it easy around the waterhole. That's probably the youngest one in the group by the looks of it, the one in the bottom right there. And there's the judge coming down for a... I wonder what he's coming down for. A drink? Maybe a bit of a wallow? Doesn't look like he's been in the mud yet. Grumpy old men all lying around the waterhole. Just going to sit here a little bit with them. See if there's any more interaction between a lot of them. It looks like basically most of the day or most of the hot part of the afternoon they would have been around the waterhole here. Like I said, some of them still lying in the water. Good place to cool down. Quite often as they get active now, it's starting to cool down a bit for the afternoon. As they start stretching and moving around, you might get a bit of interaction, just two bulls just reminding each other of who's stronger. Maybe just two old guys that have known each other for a long time, just horn wrestling and sparring a bit, keeping those fighting skills honed for the time when they need to compete again, or for the time they need to get females. Giving us a sniff, testing the breeze. It's sort of coming a little bit from us towards them. I'm sure they could pick up the odd bit of scent from us. Couple more minutes. Sure, quite soon as well they'll have to start moving again, to spend that last few hours of the afternoon getting the ruminants full again, or getting that main first compartment of their stomachs full of grass again, so that into the evening they can, wherever they decide to rest, lie down for the night, they can ruminate again, just re-chew that cud, make sure they get the most nutritional value possible from the food they eat. This guy was pushing his head into the mud just now. Also his body is nice and covered, but if you look at the horns there, the bosses especially, right on the forehead, nicely covered in mud. Now it could again be partially maybe to cool down a bit, but that'll be more for the general wallowing. Getting those horns in the mud is just a combination of a few things. Most likely, first and foremost, practical reason would be that they just get that nice rough sand and mud stuck on the horns. Later on he'll go and rub it up against a tree trunk or a branch, clean off that mud and clean off the dead cells on the horns as well. It's just a good sort of taking care of his horns, I guess you can call it, or sort of sanitary clean almost of the horns. And there's also a little bit of a display value in it. When he's pushing his head into the mud and showing his agility, the other buffalo can see that that guy's not too old yet. Bit of attitude. This guy we're looking at there that I was going in on is shaking his head, and just the way he's moving he's just letting the other bulls know that he's still one of the contenders, one of the top dogs in this group. It's interesting, he's shaking his head and one of the other bulls shaking his head back at him instead of giving each other the nod. That guy there as well. Make no mistake, the buffalo that we're looking at in the middle of those three doesn't have the biggest horns I've ever seen, but physically he's quite strong. Have a look at this other guy again. He's just turned. It's almost like he's wanting to remind all the big bulls who he is. Very, very large guy. They just look at his build, look at his shoulders and his flank. Really is a solid buffalo. You notice they're all walking on a footpath there. If you look carefully, you'll see there's a sort of a straight line path there just along the edge of what would have been mud only a few weeks ago, and probably will be mud again soon, maybe after the next day or two when we get all this rain. And then that specific part we're looking at now is probably my favorite little sort of micro area around Buffelshoek Dam. It's always nice and green there. Later into summer it fills up with mud, and then later even with water. It's just this beautiful inlet part of the dam. And I was going to say, the judge never to be left out. He might not have the full extent of his horns anymore, but in terms of physical size, he's as big as any bull out here. A bit of interaction between those two. Well, fantastic to see him again. We're just going to move to the other side of the dam, or slightly different part of the dam. Still a few bulls back there. Saw one of them still lying flat in the water, staying nice and cool. Something else I noticed down here that I want to show you. I'll show you that after we had a look at the buffalo. Still down in the water there. Two bulls. The one on the left hand side there is what Seesaw. He's the bull that months ago spent a lot of time in this exact same waterhole. He knows this waterhole better than most buffalo. Probably had a very badly injured leg. Over time he eventually recovered, and he's now gaining condition again as well. He's almost as fit and healthy as any of the bulls out there. This is one of the other bulls hanging out with him. Seesaw just to the left that I was talking about. I'm going to show you something on the ground here as well.